Just for recording purposes, going to have you say first and last name and spell it for me and give me your title.
My name is David Weiss. My last name is spelled Weiss, and I'm an assistant federal public defender for the Federal Defender of the Western District of North Carolina.
So, today you guys are just kind of releasing information about where the bullets struck Mr. Mahdi. Can you just tell me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, something really serious and troubling has occurred, which is that, South Carolina has a protocol, a set of rules for carrying out firing squad executions. This is the information that had been presented several years ago to the South Carolina Supreme Court when firing squad was approved as a method of execution. And what we know today about Mikal Mahdi's firing squad, which was only the second one that South Carolina has ever carried out, is that that protocol was not fired. What was supposed to happen was that his heart would be hit directly by three bullets, which would obliterate the heart and cause him to lose consciousness as quickly as possible. But instead, his heart was almost completely missed, causing him to suffer far longer than was necessary. And so this is probably going to be a multi-step process when something as serious as this occurs. There are other stakeholders in the system who may need to be heard. The court may want to take some action on this. Future death row inmates who may face execution may want to take action on this. The corrections department may want to take action on it. But just as a first step, we received the autopsy report a few weeks ago. Then we spent some time analyzing it and consulting with the pathologist to better understand what it was telling us. And then as soon as we had all of that information in order, we felt it was important to inform the court of what happened.
I reached out to Christy, well, SEDC, and from what she sends me, it says all three bullets struck Mahdi's heart per autopsy report. Are you guys, and I don't know if you have it in front of you, are you guys, does yours say that track A, the bullet pathway is through the skin and subcutaneous tissue of the left chest, the anterior left intercostal space? Like, is that what yours reads? Something like that?
Yes, I think it's important to be really clear about what happened here, and it's helpful to compare the autopsy and the firing squad execution of Brad Sigmund. If you look at that autopsy report, and we have filed that with the court today, what it shows is that his heart was struck directly and was essentially completely obliterated. So that firing squad execution was carried out in the quote unquote correct way. That's not what happened here. If you look at Mikal Mahdi's autopsy report, what it says is that the heart largely was left intact. Now, the heart was struck in the right ventricle. There are two perforations in the front and two perforations in the back of the right ventricle. So two bullets or two bullet fragments did pass through that portion of his heart, but that was all that was struck. The rest of the heart was left intact, and really the locus of the shots was his liver and pancreas. That's the section of his body that was struck directly, so just below the heart.
And to be struck in your liver and pancreas, I'm gonna ask, is that painful? I mean, being shot in general is probably very painful, but to be shot there, is that cause like some extra pain? Or I don't know if you've talked with medical experts.
We have, so I don't think it's any more painful to be shot in the liver and pancreas versus being shot directly in the heart. Your bones and your ribs are obviously being destroyed and broken apart, and your internal organs are being torn apart. So whether you're shot in the heart or a few inches below, what's significant here is that because Mikal was not shot directly in the heart, the amount of time that he was conscious and was consciously experiencing that excruciating pain was longer than if he was shot directly in the heart. So the testimony at the hearing that was held several years ago, in the case challenging the constitutionality of methods of execution, was that if it was done correctly, that if either the prisoner would lose conscious perhaps immediately or only retain consciousness for as long as 15 seconds. here, based on the pathologist, the medical feedback that we have gotten, that Mikal's consciousness may have lasted, probably did last anywhere from 30 to 60 seconds.
And I think that may even, in a way, coincide with the testimony that was given, the moan, that one of them said it was a moan, another said it was a yelp of, some sort. Um, were you able to kind of like hear the different testimony that was given after the execution, Mahdi's
Well,
execution?
I actually, unfortunately, I witnessed, as Mikal's attorney, I witnessed the execution. So I observed and I heard the same vocalizations and sounds and cries of pain that were reported at the press conference right after the execution occurred. So that tracked what I saw, that as soon as he was struck with the bullets, he let out a fairly significant cry or groan, which, this is not a medical assessment, but it sounded like he was in significant pain. And then about 45 seconds after that, there was another set of moans and groans. And then a little bit over a minute, there was sort of some final moaning that occurred. And at that point, his chest and his stomach stopped moving. So it appeared that he stopped breathing in that minute or, a little bit over a minute period of time.
And so you guys have filed this with, I just want to make sure that I remember, with the Supreme Court,
That's right.
state Supreme Court. And what are you guys hoping the outcome of this? Can I call it a lawsuit?
It's not a lawsuit.
Okay.
We've basically filed an update or a notice of information with the court. And as I said at the beginning, this at this step in the process, we're not seeking an outcome with what we filed. As lawyers, we represent our clients, but we also function as officers of the court. So, we received this information, the autopsy. We felt it was significant enough to just simply inform the court of what occurred. Prior to the executions, the court does have the authority under state law. They receive a certification from the Department of Corrections about the available methods of execution, and then allow or disallow the execution to go forward on the basis of that certification. So the court does have some authority in there, and so we just thought, this is important information for the court to know. I think there's probably going to be other requests made moving forward. I don't know what those are going to be right now. But right now we wanted to get the information out there as soon as we had it.
Awesome. I'm thinking right now, these are all the questions I have. I'm going to read through just to make sure I don't leave out anything. She sent me Mahdi's autopsy report.
One thing that I have been highlighting in interviews, which I think is interesting and I think worthy of highlighting, and I just think at this point raises questions about what happened, is the disparity in documentation. So you have Brad Sigmund's execution, which by all accounts seemed to go the way that it was supposed to go. The documentation of that execution was fairly significant. There was almost 30 autopsy photos that were provided. The clothing that Mr. Sigmund was wearing was examined as part of the autopsy. There was an X-ray done of his torso to show the spread of the bullet fragments. So it was a pretty thorough assessment of what occurred. And then you compare that to Mr. Mahdi's execution, which clearly, whatever you think of it, whether you think, this was fine, it was it didn't exactly adhere to the rules, from one perspective, but it got close enough. Clearly something went wrong. But in this execution, the amount of documentation was so much less. There was only a single photo that we were provided with. No X-ray was done, and his clothes were not examined. So I don't know what explains the difference in that documentation and evaluation, but I think it does raise a question about what happened here.
Well, that definitely is I guess a key bit of information. Where is that information privy to me?
It's just
Uh
yeah, it's discussed in what we filed in this.
okay. And
It's
so I can
addressed
get all of
addressed
what
in the
you guys
status
filed.
report. Yes, yeah, I can email it to you if you, I mean, it's publicly available on the Supreme Court's website, but I'll send it directly to you.
Okay, awesome. And then
Yep.
I'll take a look at that. Wow. Well, thank you so much. These are things that I didn't I wouldn't have thought to ask you about that, the documentation of it. So interesting. And I will get with back with SEDC because she talked a lot about um where the target was placed on his heart, maybe, or where it was placed and how her words were a chest x-ray was done and a medical professional used a stethoscope to place the target. Could
That's accurate. So in terms of, and you know what, Mikhail did, he was X-rayed prior to his execution to determine the exact placement of his heart. So I know, at least from what, information Mikhail had given me, like that did occur. So we're not questioning that, but what we are questioning, I mean, at the end of the day, the shots were fired in the wrong spot. And I think we need to know why that happens.
yes, that's a valid question that
Yeah.
needs an answer.
Yeah.
Okay, well, these are all the questions I have for you. Thank you so much. Whoa, we did this in 15 minutes. It's
Right on the
well, less than
spot.
15. Um, awesome. These are all the questions I have for you. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. If there's anything else that you want to share, sorry.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
If there's anything else that you'd like to share or feel as though I didn't ask and you want to tell me, I am around until 10:30 tonight. So
Okay,
feel
sounds
free
good.
to
Well,
reach
yeah,
back out.
as before, I appreciate your reporting on this.
Awesome. Thank you so
Yep.
much.
Bye. Bye. Take care.